Hi, I'm Mrs. Lansdowne, and today we're going to be talking about empathy. Do you know what empathy is? Have you heard that word before? Well, let's take a look. Empathy means, it's a word that means that someone is able to share or understand, here's a word we know, emotions and feelings of another person. We talked about perspective taking in a previous lesson, and when we perspective take, we also think of other people's emotions. But when we think of empathy, we want to think about being with the person, understanding the feelings that they're going through, maybe because you've experienced them yourself. For example, take a look at the picture that I have and look at these two boys. All right. One boy has his head down. Another boy has his hand over him, kind of consoling him. If we think about maybe what's going on, it looks like one boy is sad. For whatever reason, we're not quite sure. But his friend is being with him. His friend is probably talking to him. His friend probably understands what he's going through. And so his friend is having empathy for him. A great book that I love to read when it comes to empathy is called You, Me, and Empathy. Have you seen this book before? Well, if you were wanting a book on empathy, you certainly could get this book online and read it. I love this. It has different scenarios about some situations that you might understand and deal with to show empathy. One cute little example, it's just 2 pages in this book. If I turn to this page of this book, we have a little one who fell down and got hurt. And then the brother, all right, the little sister's helping the brother. But what happens is she knows how he feels because she remembers when she got hurt and what that felt like when the brother helped her. So having empathy means that you've probably experienced the same feelings, and you in turn know how to help. Understanding emotions is a big thing with empathy. You have to understand what somebody else's emotions are. You have to understand what their feelings are. You have to understand what facial features look like and how to read it. But having empathy means that you are being with that person at a time of need. Let's look at a couple other examples. Sometimes, maybe, you can have empathy and just be there for a friend. All right, sometimes we don't have to say anything. Sometimes we just need to be there for a friend. Maybe this friend is lonely. Well, maybe this friend knows all about that. And so therefore, she's just going to be with her friend. You can tell that they're friends, but you can tell she's just a little upset, and her friend is trying to console her. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Sometimes you may not have the words, but just being with the person. Sure. Have you ever had a friend get hurt and you can tell he's got his little hand hurt and she's got her arm around him, kind of consoling him, and she's probably talking to him about his little hurt hand. She's probably been hurt before too. So she understands the feeling and emotions that go with it. And therefore, she has empathy. All right? Empathy has a lot to do with looking at the other person's emotions. Has a lot to do with perspective taking. We had perspective taking in a previous lesson. When we look at that, today we're going to be doing some writing with empathy or about empathy. So let's take a look. In previous lessons, we did a table and legs. We used a boring sentence and we added lots of details to it on the legs. Do you remember doing that? Yeah, all right. Well, we're going to certainly do that again today. It's going to be a situation that I remember, okay? And you may have had something similar. So I remember that I saw a boy playing at recess, and then another boy was sitting all by himself. He had nobody to play with. He was just sitting on a bench. And so that's how I'm going to start mine, with that situation, that scenario. So that's going to really be my first sentence. So let's take a look. Here's our table and legs. Okay. And when we look at this particular sentence, well, that tells me a lot, but I would like a lot more. All right. I'd like a lot more written on there. So I have my first sentence. I have my topic. I saw a boy sitting on a bench by himself at recess. Okay, that's kind of my scenario, so to speak. Now I need to add details about it. So what would those sentence details maybe look like? So I like to use colorful markers. So we'll use that. And let's see, I'm going to turn this so I can actually write. And what might I write? So I guess, what did I do? So if I saw a boy sitting on the bench by himself at recess, what did I do? Well, I went over and I asked the boy if he wanted to play. All right, so I walked over. I went over and asked the boy to play. Period. All right, so I asked the boy to play, so I'm thinking next. So first he was sitting by himself on the bench. I asked him to play. So what did I do next? Well, I'm still thinking about the boy and how he might feel. So the next thing I did was I introduced him to all my friends. All right, so maybe he could make more friends. All right, so my next one was I introduced him all my friends. You should have seen the smile on his face when I introduced him to all my friends. All right, so we have the sentence, we've added a detail, I added another detail about it. All right, then what? Well, when it comes to empathy, we have to think back of, why did I have so much compassion for the boy sitting on the bench? Well, I remembered a time that happened to me, and I was sitting on the bench, and somebody come over and asked me to play. I remember that. And so that's going to be part of this, because why did I do that? Well, I did that because I remember the feeling. I remember the emotions. And so I wanted to have compassion and invite the boy to play. So I remember. When I didn't have anyone to play with at recess. I remember the feeling. So there's my empathy that's playing a part here, because I remember the feeling that I had, and I know that boy was having the same feeling. Okay, so what could be another leg detail? 3 is fine, but I want 4. I change color markers. Let's have, well, I remember when I didn't have anyone to play with at recess, and I'll never forget, Amy came up and asked me to play. So I remember her name, so I can remember when Amy asked me to play at recess. I remember that. But you know what? There's something more important here. I might have to add a sentence. We are still friends today, believe it or not. I remember it, and we are still friends today. We are still friends today. That's so exciting. So exciting. So if I take a look, my sentence was, I saw a boy sitting on a bench by himself at recess. So what did I do? Well, using my leg details, I went over and asked the boy to play. Then what? Well, I introduced him to all my friends. It was so exciting. Put a smile on his face. I could have wrote that. All right. Why did I do what I did? Why? Well, I remember when I didn't have anyone to play with at recess. And I can remember when Amy asked me to play at recess, and we are still friends today. That is amazing. So boys and girls, here's what I want. I want you to think of a time where you think you have shown empathy. Remember, is empathy when you feel an emotion that somebody else is experiencing? Okay? Think of a time where you might have shown some empathy. Yeah. Those are good. Those are good. All right, well, let's talk through one of those. Yeah, we're not going to put it on table or legs, but let's talk through it. Yeah, so they said one time somebody was being a little bit of a bully and picking on a friend. Yeah, and they said that they jumped up and they told the bully to stop. They were protecting their friend. That is fantastic. So you helped your friend, okay, stand up to a bully. What else can we add to that? How did you do it? Okay, so you stood up and told him to stop picking on your friend. Okay, so why did you do that? Why did you do that? You remember when somebody did that to you, and you remember how you felt. How did you feel? You were nervous. You felt like people did not like you. Okay? And so you wanted to help that person. You remember that feeling. Good job. That is showing empathy. Fantastic. Today, if you were in Mrs. Lansdale's class, I have a table and legs for you in the student resource section that you can certainly use today. Or if you just want to use blank paper, that's fine too. I would have you think of a time where you think that you have had empathy for someone else. Talk about your situation, list important leg details about it, and especially give us the why. Why did you do that? And give us the why with it. When we think of having empathy, it deals a lot with our emotions. It deals a lot with perspective taking. And sometimes we really have to think of others. We have to stop thinking of ourselves, and we need to think of others and maybe how they're feeling and how can I help. What if your friend lost a pet? Maybe you've never lost a pet. You don't even know what that feels like. But maybe by looking at your friend's emotions, could you understand why they would be so sad? Could you have compassion for why they are so sad? And sometimes we don't have all the right words to say. Sometimes just being with your friend, all right, without even saying words. Maybe sitting beside them, they know that you're there, and that's all they need. Today, I want you to walk away from this lesson thinking deeply about empathy. And have you had empathy for others in your life? All right, if your teacher has a different assignment for you to do, then please feel free to do that assignment. Have a great day.